So there was this study done a little while ago, and it basically said that they ranked people's worst fears, number one being the worst, and number whatever being their least feared thing. And death ranked sixth. You want to know what ranked first? Public speaking. And how does this relate to our story? Well, Stephen spoke and was prosecuted for speaking. He spoke and people believed him. They wanted to follow him and they wanted to know more about what he said. So when the church got a hold of this, people started to not like it very much. People in power. And people in power, when they don't like something, they make a change. So you know what they did? They dragged him out of when he was speaking. They dragged him out and stoned him to death. Yeah. We don't really have to fear that here. I think I'm pretty okay right here. You guys are laughing at what I'm saying. That seems pretty good to me. But yeah, can you go?
Oh, okay, sure. So, while I was reading this, I noticed that Stephen seems to be basically imitating Jesus, and so should we as Christians. And a few things that reminded me of Jesus are that they were both saying that the church and the people needed to change their ways. Jesus and Stephen both got killed by religious people and were forgiving them still while they were being killed. So, if it's the religious leaders that killed both Jesus and Stephen, how as Christians can we make sure we don't get mad like that? I think that it is very important that we have patience, always be open-minded, and not fixate. Fixate on the current ways of the church. Because when Jesus and Stephen were killed, it was because the religious leaders were fixating on the old ways of the church and not allowing new ways. But Jesus and Stephen were telling them to change. So if people are persisting for the ways of the church to change, listen to what they have to say. And how Stephen was imitating Jesus, he ended up getting killed in a similar way. So should we try to get killed? Obviously not. And we won't get killed for being Christians in Canada, but there are still some countries that you would. So we need to stand up for them. And then kind of how this, how they relate is...
So, Stephen was prosecuted for public speaking. Obviously, we're not going to be prosecuted for public speaking. At least I hope we're not. That would be pretty horrible. But we're just trying to show the differences about how we can be more like Jesus and Stephen, and how, personally, I had never heard of Stephen until I read this. And I think that's wrong, because what he did was very, very similar to what Jesus did, but we didn't hear about it, or at least I didn't. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't hear about it, and so I think maybe bringing that up and making people more aware of who Stephen was and what he did and the sacrifice that he made that was similar to Jesus' sacrifice, so that we can live more like the both of them.
And how Stephen was imitating Jesus. Like, what are some of the things that we can do to imitate Jesus? I think that some great ones are to spread the word of the Lord by maybe preaching or even inviting people to church. And another good one is to stand up for what we know is right.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much the end.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but we're up here spreading what we think, and then I think you guys are going to be able to talk with each other about what we've said. So yeah, that's pretty much it.